Hello there, out in the interwebs of couches, places, and wherever you may be. Welcome to another episode of Cult Classic Movie Corner. I am lucky today to have the Richard guesting with me, and we are going to be talking about primarily Maniac Cop from 1988. So welcome, Richard.
I don't know if you're lucky or fortunate or however unfortunate, but I'm here.
You're here
Aloha.
either way. Either way. Aloha. Yeah, Maniac Cop. What is your relationship to this movie? Do you remember when you first saw it?
Um, I would say it would have been 1988, 89, most likely 89 on Cinemax,
Mm-hmm.
where I stayed up all night long. I was 15, 16 years old, stumbling across the greatest gems ever created on
Mm-hmm.
Cinemax, and knowing that I loved all well I was just in I was diving into all types of horror, and my god, man, does this movie deliver.
Oh yeah, I've said it before. Most of the horror movies I saw growing up, I saw on rental VHS, because my best friend's mom worked at the local video store where I grew up. So when we were like 14, 15, 16, we were allowed to rent whatever movie we wanted. So we always went for like the hardcore horror movies and had a blast. Like The Hidden is one of those movies I saw on rental VHS, which just blew me away because that's before like the internet. So you didn't hear anything about those movies until you sat there watching them, and it was very different than today when all the information about every single movie you're supposed to watch is kind of, you're bombarded with information before you go and see it. So was also the case with Maniac Cop. In Norway, we didn't have Cinemax, but we had other like cable channels who showed movies of this caliber. And I remember very distinctly one sleepover with said friend, and this, I think it was a Swedish channel, aired both Maniac Cop and Maniac Cop2 as a double bill. And the first one, it started around midnight, so we were sitting there until like 4 o'clock in the morning, watching Matt Cordell just go bananas on people, and that sunk in. So I have a kind of love for the Maniac Cop movies. I didn't see the third one until I was an adult, but the two first ones were like, I saw them at the perfect place in my childhood just to appreciate them for the B movie trash fun they are.
I agree. Yeah, the age like 14, 15, and 16, you're so impressionable and spending all night with your pals, and you've got Mountain Dew and stuff. I didn't do drugs or alcohol, so it's always Mountain Dew, chips, Doritos, popcorn. Uh, Hopefully somebody had a hot sister that would come and go. Um, Watching all of these um, slashers and B movies, and it didn't necessarily always have to be horror. Clash of the Titans, or a lot of the Sword and Sandals. I remember having those kind of parties too. But horror has always been my thing. My mom says I turned dark around the age of 16,
Mm-hmm.
where I really got into slashers and horror movies.
Yeah, and I've stayed that way. I've continued to be a horror hound and a gore hound. I just love that type of cinema, and that's why I made this show about cult classics, where you can talk about not only horror movies but movies that kind of aren't in necessarily like the A list.
You've got to have your horror movie survival guide next to your bed. So I've got mine here.
So tell me, tell us a little about, you actually painted two paintings today, based on Maniac Cop.
Okay. The first one I'm going to finish it off camera because
Mm-hmm.
the first video actually took 20 minutes, 39 minutes, something like that, 29 minutes, and it took way longer than I expected. So I realized I've been doing these live as kind of a practice to get back into the feel of my paintings. I need to put up a little clock so I can time it because I get lost in thought and technique and storytelling and everything. But I did practically finish this one. Let me see if I can zoom in.
Yep.
I don't know. I'll just move my camera. Pardon all the noises and
Yep.
everything.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Now, this one right here, it's actually not finished because I did want to. I wanted to ink over the words "Maniac Cop" and then add a little bit of detail. But this one only took like 10 minutes, I think. So my style is usually pretty fast, and it looks.
Mm.
This one reminds me of an old VHS cover, like a really old
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. I also like that you focused on the baton and his uniform, and it doesn't even feature his face or head, which being the actor playing him, being Robert Sadar, is quite characteristic. I've heard people kind of describe this movie as the battle of the chins because you have
Oh,
Robert Sadar and you have Bruce Campbell, who's also known for having a quite protrusive chin. And this was actually, as far as I've been able to tell, this was the first non Sam Raimi movie that Bruce Campbell did.
I don't know.
He said so himself on his
Oh,
Twitter.
he
So
did? Okay.
I'm betting he knows what he's done.
Okay.
And
Okay. Yeah.
also
Yeah. I was thinking
Sam
if it was
Raimi
comedy.
also Sam Raimi also has a cameo in this movie as a news reporter, and also the Oldsmobile, the Sam Raimi Oldsmobile, is also featured in one scene in this movie. And Sam Raimi shot some of the St. Patrick Day shots. So there's a connection in this movie actually with Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell.
Speaking of that festival, that parade, that was a real thing that they got in trouble for here and there.
Yeah, they just shot in New York, and I saw some of the special features on my Arrow Blu-ray earlier this afternoon, and there was an interview there with Larry Cohen, who wrote this movie, and he said that he loved filming and shooting stuff in New York because the cops were kind of mellow. So if they caught you doing like moonlighting, sometimes you could just tell them a good story and they just enjoy the fact that you were filming and not make you get into any trouble, which was the polar opposite of how it was shooting movies in Los Angeles. If you don't have a permit, they just shut you down immediately. But the setting, this movie works so great with the setting in New York, I think. And also, there's something about the whole concept of having the monster in the movie be a cop. There's a lot of tension in the movie based on the fact that there's this news report out there about a maniac cop going around killing people. And if you watch this movie today and you think about how much negativity and how much criticism there has been towards police in like the last like 10 years maybe, it's actually more poignant now than when it came out in 1988. The fact that seeing a police officer doesn't necessarily mean that you're supposed to feel safe.
Oh man, and the madness, that the fear that goes through people's minds because of the news is broadcasting. Beware of the cops. You know, that's what they're saying on the news in the movie. And like you say, it really does parallel kind of recent things. But I remember that one scene where the lady gets pulled over and she shoots the
Yeah.
cop. Boom. I mean,
yeah, that's a pretty brutal scene. You just see some gore like splitting out of his police hat, and he just falls over. And we, as an audience, of course, immediately see that this isn't the bad guy. So this woman had her car broke down. A police officer is coming to help her, and she's so afraid of what she's heard that she proactively just shoots him. It's not a good reaction, but it's a reaction.
Now, did this make you think in any way, shape, or form about Samuel Jackson and Lakeview Heights that came out in 2008 or 9?
Is that the one where he's this neighbor?
He's a cop, and trust me, he lets you know he's a cop. But yeah, he's the neighbor. He's the neighbor. Yeah.
Yeah. And he kind of gets into this neighborly quarrel with these people living next door to him. I've seen it once. Don't remember it very well, but I did think it was a good movie, a good thriller.
It went into race way more than this one did. This one didn't really have anything to do with race. Obviously, Maniac Cop deals with the insecurity of within the ranks of the police officers. Like, you don't know who you're trusting, who on your side could be killing you and stuff. Whereas in Lakeview Heights, it was him. He was racist about a white man marrying a black girl. Yeah.
That's right. The thing I think is cool about Maniac Cop is that it has actually, I feel it has a bit more layers than a regular slasher, because it works kind of as a police mystery as well as a slasher movie, and the whole backstory of what happened to this like very decorated cop, Matt Cordell, who is sentenced for like breaking the law, pushing some limits, maybe being kind of a Dirty Harry figure. But he gets arrested, charged, and he gets put into general population at Sing Sing, and that's a death sentence for like a high profile police officer. So that's something yeah. No, go ahead.
It was already one of the worst prisons, and then him being an officer being thrown in there, yeah, absolutely, it's a death sentence, or worse.
So I like it when we come to that point in the movie where you kind of learn more about what happened to this man, because you actually manage to have some sympathy for what happened to him and the fact that he wants revenge. But the movie doesn't just focus his revenge on just the people who are responsible, but they do actually address it in the movie, and that's good because this policewoman, the lady with the leg braces, she was his girlfriend at the time he got killed. And there's this scene where they meet up in this junkyard, and she's confused because she's telling him that I knew you had anger in you, Matt, but I thought you'd go around cleaning up the city and getting to those responsible. Instead, he's like been killing like a guy who runs a red light, and he's just a maniac cop. But I think she thought that there would be more method to his madness because she is working with him. And of course, later on, it turns out that the fact that she isn't entirely in agreement with how he runs things ends up with him killing her when he attacks the police station and basically kills every single cop in there.
Very Terminator-esque, the 1984.
Absolutely.
Because I rewatched it last night, and he's just going through there. He's just slaughtering all the cops and everything. I halfway expected Lance Henriksen to come out at some point.
But that's another thing about this movie. I have to say, I think it is spectacularly cast. I think it's a really great cast for a late 80s movie. It's like you know you're in for a treat when you have Tom Atkins playing a police officer. That's kind of become one of his staples, I guess. because it is not the first time that Tom Atkins has played a police officer by far. Example, what's it called about the
Night of the
space zombies?
Creeps.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Night of the Creeps.
Wasn't Night of the Creeps like the year before, 87 or something?
Might be.
I didn't do my homework. Yeah, I think it was like a year or so before. But 78, or I mean, 87, 88, and 89 were my favorite for like, we just got so much so fast. There's always good throughout the 80s, but we just got so much good stuff in those 3 years.
Yeah, the 80s were kind of peaking at that point in a good way. And the music in this movie is also pretty cool and made by Jay Chataway, which to many will be a known name if you've seen a lot of episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation, because he has scored very, very many of those episodes.
Cool.
So yeah, I recognized his name when I saw it come up on the screen, and I thought, oh, I've seen his name in front of a lot of these TNG episodes. And he's made this kind of childlike theme for Matt Cordell, which is played during the scenes where he gets abused in prison and supposedly killed. Have you seen the sequels? Any of them?
I saw a Maniac Cop 2, and I don't believe I saw the third one. If I had, it would have been like you, and it would have been as an adult later on.
Yeah. It's not as good, but all three movies are actually directed by William Lustig, so he's actually managed to keep his franchise at least. The second movie is a direct sequel to the first one, because this one, as those who have seen it knows, ends with this showdown down at the piers, and Cordell gets hit by a sailing rod, I believe, or something. Through the chest, and and his car goes in the water. And of course, the very last scene in very, very 80s horror-ish tropism is you see his hand come out of the water and just like touch the pier. Always a good way to end one of those horror movies where you know, oh, but he isn't dead. So there's still more.
Going to be that. I was considering that one, and then I realized, oh, that's too generic. Everybody knows the scene is from so many different. Evil Dead even has that and everything on their poster. Yeah. So yeah, that's why I went with this one. But yeah, I was looking at stills of the hand coming out of the water and stuff.
And the other actors, of course, you have Bruce Campbell as Jack Forrest, Laureen Landon. I don't really know her, but I know she's been in some other movies. But I really enjoyed the guy playing Captain Ripley, actor called William Smith, the police captain with this incredibly raspy voice.
I thought he was, what's his name, or maybe related to what's his name from Slither and The Walking Dead, and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
you know who I'm talking about. He really.
Kind of has that. Yeah, well, Michael Rooker.
Michael Rooker, he's got that feel.
Yeah, he's got that Michael Rooker feel over him. Yeah, I can see that comparison absolutely. Like a big guy with just really raspy, characteristic voice, which makes you kind of just immediately pay attention to him. And then of course you have Robert Sadar, who is playing Matt Cordell, and he's been in a lot of trashy movies. And but I read something interesting, and that's the fact that he was actually a Chicago police officer. So he's actually worked as a cop before playing this Maniac Cop. But I see that seems to be a thing that several actors have done, because what's his name? The guy with the mustache who always plays cops. Not Molina.
Like what?
I'm trying. I'm drawing a blank, but
Well,
he
like Danny
also,
Trejo is a former prisoner, and he's always playing an inmate or an ex-inmate.
yeah, yeah,
You
of
find your
course.
type.
They're kind of getting typecast, but there's a lot of people from this movie who aren't with us anymore. Like Robert Sadar died in 2015. I'm unsure if Tom Atkins is still alive. He's still
I
alive, but
believe he is. I believe he is.
yeah.
Hey, I always wanted to know, and I didn't get a chance to look this up. Was there a condition for Robert's facial features? Because it increasingly got more bulbous, and that's how he did get a lot of his roles, I heard. But was there a sort of condition for that?
I think I've heard something about that earlier, that there is kind of like a medical condition that made his face look like that, because of course that's kind of, I understand that that's what got him roles, because he had his looks were just different. And I also heard Larry Cohen say on the behind the scenes thing that he actually wanted for all three movies for a stuntman to play the role of the Maniac Cop, because he thought they could get more out of that role if he was more agile and like worked with his body. But I don't agree with that necessarily, because I think the thing that makes the Maniac Cop so scary is in part the fact that he's this hulk of a man. Just like Kane Hodder is in his portrayal of Jason Voorhees, because he's almost inhumanly large. And it works better for him to just be this large guy who moves slowly and just walks around and just acts very imposing.
Well, Kane Hodder was also a stunt guy,
He
so
worked with stunts.
he was the double. It was a 2-in-1 package there, yeah.
Mm.
And his body was severely scarred from burns and stuff in real life. I don't think they showed it on the film. They exaggerated everything. But speaking of a comparison between the two, was there a scene in the first movie that led to voodoo or something? Because voodoo was really big in the 80s, and we know that he becomes an unstoppable creature. So I'm wondering, was it in the second one or the
Yeah,
first
I
one?
think it's. I need to rewatch the second and third one because I can't remember much. It's been years since I've seen them, but I do believe the voodoo aspect of it came into those movies. There's nothing about that in this one. In this one, it's just the fact that he was severely mangled in the prison, and they believed him to be dead, but then it turned out that he wasn't completely dead, and the coroner got convinced by this young policewoman to let him go because both the coroner at Sing Sing and other police officers felt it was brutal to like put him in that jail, and it was a death sentence. So he isn't undead, I believe, in this movie, but they kind of touch in on it, because the first woman, the policewoman who survives his attack says that she was sure she hit him with a bullet in the head, and she also says that he was ice cold even through his gloves. So I'm not sure how they work that, because when they confront this coroner later in the movie, they're basically saying that he didn't die. So the movie is kind of what do you call it when you're talking against yourself? Yeah, it's ambiguous.
And did they film the second one back to back or relatively, like within a year or two?
Probably pretty close. I'll see what I can find.
I think 88 and then 90, if I'm not mistaken. So that's really close. So they could keep the storylines going. And by that time, obviously, Friday the 13th had turned Jason into everything that he is today, essentially. And
it came out in 1990, as you said. So it's just 2 years after.
Okay. They totally went that way.
Yeah. It's a pretty good cast, actually, in the second one. It's Robert Davi and Claudia Christian, who many will know from Babylon 5 lore. She played Ivanova. So it's actually worth watching. Actually, Blue Underground just put out. They actually put out the second and third Maniac Cop movies in 4K.
Now, Maniac Cop was originally under consideration to be, or in consideration to be, a sequel to 1980s Maniac, which also Lustig wrote. They just, somebody, I forget, maybe the studio or whatever, decided not to make it an official sequel. So what did you think of 1980s Maniac and then the 2013-12 remake of Maniac? How did they compare to Maniac Cop?
Well, I think Maniac and Maniac with the remake with Elijah Wood are both are great movies. The original, for its very, very trashy 80s, like almost underground feel. And then you have the Elijah Wood remake, which is a much more modern take on how to do the movie. And it has its entire concept with doing all the killings in the first perspective. Isn't that right? It's been a long time since I saw it, but yeah.
No, that's right.
And Elijah Wood does a really good job at playing this really creepy guy. But I still prefer, I think, the original. There's something about the guy who plays the maniac. He's so dirty and filthy, and like I said, this whole underground feel to it.
Right,
I
it's
heard
got
Larry.
more the gay 80s New York underground scene, the sleaze, the now there's a lot of similarities, but I would say that's a really good point that you're bringing up, because the remake with Elijah Wood is polished. He's clean cut. Nobody would ever suspect him. And that's why it's a masterpiece all in its own. And then they use very similar tropes throughout each film and everything. Man, I want to do a painting of kind of an amalgamation of both of them, like I did with The Thing. I did the novel version of The Thing and the one of the movie versions of The Thing combined. I'd love to do that with the Spinelli and Elijah Wood's character. Looking for the mirror.
I'm actually quite excited to see what happens with the remake of Maniac Cop, because that was announced maybe a year ago, that the Danish director he's called Nicolas Winding Refn, he's going to be making a Maniac Cop television series. He is behind movies like the Pusher trilogy from Denmark, and he made a movie with Mads Mikkelsen, where Mads Mikkelsen plays a Viking. Let's see, I'm just gonna.
Steve says the reboot lands on HBO.
Yeah, that is true. Refn also made Drive with Ryan Gosling.
Oh, okay, that's a recognizable name.
Yeah, and the Neon Demon. So.
Okay, I like the style then.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to seeing his take on Maniac Cop, and also seeing it as a television series. That's going to be interesting. I have a quote here from him. He said, I read that after the announcement of the series, Nicolas Winding Refn took to Twitter to add to the hype, saying that Maniac Cop will be his version of a cocaine-fueled, neon-soaked, bubblegum-wrapped, mayhem-infused, speed-driven universe of thrill seekers who are consumed by that ever-present struggle of good versus evil. But evil is winning. That sounds like a an intense ride. But
I love it.
I am there, and I am really looking forward to that being hopefully put into production, because at this point it's just been announced. There's not been any pictures of it, not anything really. But it is announced, and it's supposed to come at some point, but I don't think they've like
Oh, it's
started
gonna come. It's gonna come
production.
all over.
It'll be cool to see who plays the Maniac Cop, and how it differs from the original. It's going to be interesting to see.
Your okay, Maniac Cop is kind of a cross between well, it's not as intense and as the Maniac, but listening to that description that you just read, it makes me think it's a cross between the two Maniacs films,
Yeah,
with the
kind
plot of Maniac Cop, like the stylized of both of those, with the style, with the story and follow through of Maniac Cop. So they're going to make it flashy. It's going to be sleazy. It's going to be a serial killer.
Yeah.
Serialized story. This sounds amazing.
Yeah, and he really can do the underground look and stuff, because like I said, the trilogy of movies he started out with, called Pusher, is set in Copenhagen. It's about these gangsters and drug dealers. There's some comedy in there, but it's shot very cheaply, and it's all about the characters. It's really good. I still have my original like DVD box set of those three movies.
Right on, man. Cool.
Yeah, so those are highly recommended if you want to see something Danish of some older vintage. They still hold up as like really great movies with awesome characters.
You say vintage? How old are they?
No, they're from like, well, vintage. in this day and age, it doesn't take much to become vintage, but I think they're from the early 90s. The first one came in 96, the second one in 2004, and the third one in 2005.
If that's vintage, then I'm an antique.
Yeah, well, maybe that was the incorrect word to use, but I'd rather say if you want to see his the starting point of his career, that's another thing.
Yeah, maybe it's
also
more
made
like a
this
of a wine. It's a
yeah.
fine taste of wine. That's what it is.
That's what it is. It's and he also made this really crazy movie called Fear X with John Turturro. So this Danish director is really one to watch out for. He's going to be making cool stuff in the future for sure.
That's very optimistic. That's great. That's great news. So a Maniac Cop is not dead. We'll say that.
Absolutely not. He is going to be coming back with a furious vengeance. And yeah, well, I'm excited actually to see more of these horror franchises touch upon the TV series format. Because I think there's something there. I find myself these days more and more often enjoying television series more than I enjoy movies. There's just something about that whole the experience of getting to get to know the characters over a longer period of time. The story isn't so concentrated. I don't get me wrong, I love movies, but television has become so good that it's almost in many or well, in some instances it surpasses the quality of movies almost.
I'm proud to agree with you, and I'm proud to say that now that I'm back into my painting phase and not doing all the stuff that I was doing for the last couple of years, I'm actually going to be able to watch more TV and movies. Like I have not watched really much since 2016 or 17, something like that. I need to get caught up on a bunch of things. But I did watch Squid Game, and after this episode right here, and after we plan what we're going to do for Phantasmagorium Halloween, I'm going full on Squid Game, all kinds of art. I've got modern pieces, might even have some sculptures and everything. I am so excited. I love that series, and I'm pissed off that it's so popular because this should be my show. It shouldn't be everybody around the world liking it.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where actually the hype is very well deserved, because many times I'm almost hesitant to go in watching something that's so overly hyped, because usually it tends to be that I'll be disappointed because I don't get the hype, or it's just a fact that maybe it's hyped for the wrong reasons. And also, there's kind of almost like I feel like giving in to the hype is almost a bad thing. So I was reluctant about watching Squid Game for a little while, but then it just started popping up everywhere, and I saw that I was getting small spoilers here and there, and I thought, okay, if I'm going to watch this series, I better just jump into it. And I did, and it was amazing. I binged it in 2 days.
Now, see, I don't know if you want to talk much about it right now, but we can also do it later. But Squid Game is also very similar to Battle Royale, which a lot of other things ripped off, like the Hunger Games. You know, oh, Hunger Games are so cool. Fuck no, you can look at Battle Royale. That is cool. That's the brutal. And there are others that come before it and stuff. But in some interview, one of maybe the writer or the director or something hypothesized that one of the characters was a survival from Battle Royale, and that's why he was gone for so long. So there's just the fact that they would even hint that blows my mind and warms my heart.
Yeah, they do really tend to want to embrace these days the idea of like having things being in the extended universe sense, ever since the Marvel movies made that so huge. But getting back to Maniac Cop, William Lustig, I don't really know that much about him, but I do know that he has made a few really cool movies in the 80s. Well, you have, of course, Maniac from 1980, which we spoke about, and then you also have a movie I saw for the first time just like half a year ago. It's this movie called Vigilante with Robert Forster, which I thought was really good.
I think I saw that. What year was that?
82.
Robert Forster, he died, didn't he?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do believe so.
Yeah, because his whole history, he hadn't really made it big until I'm blowing it now, but he made it big with something, and then he died, something along those lines.
And then you have Maniac Cop 88 and a few other movies that I haven't heard that much about, but excuse me.
I really should have done my homework better. I've got all kinds of I collect books like this. What is it? Cult flicks and trash TV picks and everything. And I love going through these as opposed to going through the internet. It's so much fun to be able to smell the raunch.
There's something about real books that is absolutely cool. And as we said, this movie is written by Larry Cohen, who has written a lot of cool stuff, but he's also directed a few cool movies. He passed away in 2019, but he's known for like movies like God Told Me To, It's Alive, The Ambulance. Have you seen The Ambulance with Eric Roberts?
I don't believe. I'm pretty sure I have, but I don't recall it offhand.
Okay,
that's something
but because
totally
there's kind of a connection there, because in The Ambulance, that's a movie about this really old ambulance that goes around picking up sick people, and it doesn't take them to the hospital, but it takes them to this place where they experiment on them, and you can get the feeling that it's connected to Maniac Cop, because both movies are about someone who is initially supposed to be there to save you is turned into the bad guy. And I've always enjoyed that concept a lot, where you kind of get to the place where what you're supposed to trust isn't you can't trust it. That's one of the things that I think make the Nightmare on Elm Street series so good, is that he doesn't kill you when you're alive. He kills you when you're the most vulnerable you can be, when you're sleeping, unable to do anything. That's when he gets you, and that's what I think is just ingenious about what Wes Craven created with the Elm Street franchise.
I love me some Krueger.
Yeah, Freddy Krueger is a cool guy. So this movie, Maniac Cop, was made pretty cheaply. It had a budget of $1.1 million. And I heard Larry Cohen say in the behind the scenes thing I saw that he ran into William Lustig and praised him for the movie he made, Maniac. And he said, "How do you feel about now making the movie Maniac Cop?" And he says, "I also have the tagline. The tagline is, you have the right to remain silent forever." And they had a cup of coffee, talked about maybe doing this movie, and they left. And Larry Cohen said that he thought that, well, okay, that was a nice coffee, but I'll probably never hear anything. And I think he said it was 2 weeks or something after they spoke. William Lustig called him up on the phone and said, "Yep, when do we go? I have the funding." And then they made Maniac Cop. It only made $673,000 at the box office, which isn't, of course, a lot, but for a movie of this character, it's fine. And I'm sure it's earned its budget several times over the years on various home media devices. It has a rating of 6.0 out of 10 on IMDb and a score of 50% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. I actually think 50% is actually quite high for a movie like this. So I was actually surprised to see it had that high rating on the tomato.
Right. A lot of them get maybe 3.8 or 4.7s or something. Yeah. I mean, like you were saying earlier, though, there's so many stories that are kind of woven in here. It didn't have to be that complex, though. It's really nice that it is.
Yeah, it plays like a killer movie, and it plays like a police movie. And I like that they kind of start off the movie with having Tom Atkins apparently be the lead, and then 2/3 into the movie, he gets violently thrown out of a window by Matt Cordell and killed. So it's one of those movies where you kind of have two main leads. It's in the beginning, it's Tom Atkins, and then you slowly gravitate over towards Bruce Campbell. And a spoiler for the second movie, which is very disappointing, is the fact that they have Bruce Campbell back for the second one, but then he's killed just 10 minutes or something into the movie, and then the character of Robert Davi takes over. Bruce Campbell apparently didn't really like this movie, but he said that he needed a paycheck. I think, well, that's his opinion. I've always loved it, and I still like it. I don't know. There's something about this character of this policeman who is just working in the shadows, and there's something scary about that. And I think it's well made. It looks good. Yeah.
What's your favorite kill
in the movie? I don't know. I think maybe the person who he's chasing, and he ends up killing him while has his face buried in cement, and then you just do a cut to the police trying to get this guy out of the cement. So they're standing around him using jackhammers to get this killed person out of the cement. I get a kick out of that one.
That's very Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
and very, very, very Friday the 13th. Or at least it reminds me of Jason X, freezing her head and crash. So I guess one of my favorite kills, It's kind of weird when he would pick up a gun. I mean, I know that that's one of his primary weapons, but I like it when he's using the spear or whatever
Yeah.
dagger that he's got in his baton.
Yeah, he's got kind of a small sword in his baton, which has a good reveal when he stopped this guy at a traffic stop and he's taking him in front of the car and he unsheathes it so his girlfriend in the car can see it and he just like slashes his throat, I guess.
Yeah.
Always fun with weapons like those. But yeah, we're running towards the 1 hour mark. Maybe we should go through and see what kind of comments we have got. Slice Knight says, "Hey guys, hi Slice Knight, good to see you're here." Sent the super sticker, the queen of the super stickers, as I call her. Slice Knight said Lakeview Terrace. That's the movie you were talking about with Samuel L. Jackson.
Yep.
The Phantasmagorium show behind the scenes says Officer Down reminded me a little of Maniac Cop. I have not yet seen that movie. That's the second time I think I've had that movie referenced. So that's absolutely one I have to put on my watch list.
Same here. You know what? I've been meaning to watch it forever. It's like 3 or 4 years old now or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely want to see that.
Slice Knight says, I haven't seen Maniac Cop yet. Sounds interesting. Yeah, it is. If you can tolerate like horror B movies from the 80s and that's something you can watch, then totally. I think it's more interesting than a lot of these slasher movies that came out.
And just keep in mind, it's got Bruce Campbell. So
it's got Bruce Campbell. You can't go wrong with Bruce Campbell. Todd Michael says, okay. I was working real life job. Well, congratulations to you. Now I'm here. Everybody calm down. I'm here now. Okay, now I feel calm. Todd Michael says, hey to the Phantasmagorium show and my tongue today is killing me. And anybody else who is still watching and in the chat. Slice Knight is excited. It's Todd Michael Czernyszewski, the internet's favorite Polish critic. Slice Knight is confirming that yes, Tom Atkins is still alive, so there's still hope to see him in more police roles. Tom Michael says, and it was a sucktastic day at work too. I am very sorry to hear that. Better luck tomorrow, and then the weekend comes. So hang in there. You're almost there.
I'm laughing at something he says later on. It's going to sound weird. I totally jumped the gun on his gay 80s thing.
Okay.
We'll let you get to it.
Yeah, we'll get there. Elijah Wood says, no, that would be great. Slice Knight says, the Elijah Wood remake sounds great. It's shot in his point of view. I really want to see it. Yeah.
It is near a masterpiece, in my opinion. I went to England to see it, actually. I was at the premiere. Or at a film fest. Yeah, I was at the premiere.
We talked about that earlier today, and that's a kind of a fun story because the Richard was the premiere of this movie in London in 2012, and he was literally on the other side of the road from me, who was there with Robert Meyer Burnett seeing Skyfall at Leicester Square. So all these years later, we've now become friends on the internet, but we were actually just feet away from each other back in 2012. So that's a fun thing.
We could have seen each other. We could have been outside smoking or something.
Yep. Well, Tom Michael says, gay 80s underground. Sounds like a music genre.
Yeah.
Slice Knight says, Nicholas Winding Refn is amazing, and I am in total agreement with you about this. He also made Only God Forgives. That one I haven't seen, actually, so I'm going to have to see that one.
I would have probably skipped it because it sounds like a holier-than-thou Christian movie.
Maybe. Phantasmagorium show set. It's got 15% with only 14 reviewers, though. Yeah, okay, that's not a lot, of course, and the new movies get more reviews. Slice Nice says Bruce Campbell makes everything better. Yes, he might be on top of my list of like actors I want to meet, because I've heard people say that Bruce Campbell is 100% everything you expect him to be if you meet him at like a convention or something like that. He loves that shit, and he just seems to really love being Bruce Campbell, and that's not strange. I'd love to be Bruce Campbell. So actually, yeah. Slice Night says about Only God Forgives. Actually, it's about criminal underworld in Thailand. It's a revenge thriller. You had me at revenge. I love revenge thrillers, so that's something I'm going to have to check out at Thailand. Yeah, of course. Mr. Hawaii. Well, I think it's about time to wrap this one up. Thanks for having a good discussion about this movie with me, Richard. I'm sure you're going to be back on this show discussing other movies with me as it progresses. Usually I have a movie picked out for the next show, but I don't at this moment because I'm working a couple of angles. But I'll make a announcement via video on the Phantasmagorium group Facebook page at some point. So we'll get to it. So for today, thanks for participating in the chat. If you see this movie, this show later, please hit me up with a like and hit me up with a comment. I love reading comments on YouTube about what people think about the shows, good or bad. Just do it. Where can people find you on the web, the Richard, if they want to see more of your art or get in touch with you?
Okay, the Richard 13 on Twitter and Facebook, and the Richard 1313 on Instagram, and I've got so many projects in the works, like some really wild things that involve a lot of people. Though right now I'm getting back into my painting phase, and I'm doing all of these videos live. Like I did one last night on the Phantasmagorium. I'll do one or two on the Post Geek Singularity, and then a couple of the other channels that I'm affiliated with. I'm just kind of testing the waters, getting my name and artwork back out there. And then we're going to be editing some of the videos down for an actual produced show with music, composers, interviews, bands, and all of that. So that's it for me in a nutshell. I got a lot of stuff going on. It's Christmas time to sell some horror art.
Yeah, so basically watch this space when it comes to the Richard. There's gonna be stuff. So another show in the bag. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, remember to stay cult.